So today I have a box here. I'm not positive, but I think this came to me from Tasmania, ultimately. I've taken the address label off of it, but I haven't yet opened it. And if this is the whiskey that I'm thinking it is, I am very, very excited indeed. You might remember back in episode 25 of my my podcast, I was talking about whiskey that happened to be made with sheep dung. Now, I'm not saying there's sheep dung in the whiskey, because that is absolutely not true. But sheep dung does play a part in the production of it. This is really, really tricky to open. Did I not open this? Oh, I missed a spot. And if this is the one I'm thinking about, it came to me from Tasmania. Yes, it did. Yes, I'm so excited. Look, there's a tiny little bottle in here. Let me get this mess cleared up, see what else is inside. Oh, Inspired Spirits. Oh, I think this was the, oh, how nice. Yes, I have a note here. It says, "Hi, Debbie. Peter Bignall asked me to send you this sample." That's not what it says. It says, "Peter Bignall asked me to send this sample to you. Cheers." Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. And this particular whiskey that I talked about a while back, what he does is, now Tasmania has a lot of sheep, and Peter Bignall runs his distillery greener than any distillery I've ever encountered. Now, I've talked a lot about Green Bar through the years and how they run all of their operations so green. But Peter Bignall, I mean, he really takes the cake. And let me get right to the point about this sheep dung whiskey. Now, when I read a lot of reviews about this, there's not a lot of reviews, but when I do read the reviews about this, invariably it says the whiskey is made with sheep dung. He smokes his whiskey with sheep dung is the way it's usually phrased, and that, I'm sorry, is just so, first of all, misleading, and secondly, really not true. I don't want to take the label off with this bubble wrap. I want to be able to read it. It's taking the writing off. Yeah, okay. It does say this is the sheep dung rye whiskey. Absolutely. So the way this works, let me start off by helping you understand the process of smoking barley malt. So barley malt is necessary for the process of fermentation. Fermentation requires the presence of sugar, and grains are not starches. Whiskey's made from grain. Grains are not starches, they're sugars. And you have to find some way of converting those grain starches to fermentable grain sugars, or you never get fermentation or distillation, and you never get this beautiful amber gold here. So what they do is they allow barley to sprout. They allow it to just germinate. And in that little seedling, there are enzymes that can actually convert the grain starches to fermentable grain sugars. So they allow the barley malt, they allow the barley to sprout, and then they dry it, and they grind it up, and they use it further in the production. I won't go too far into that. But in the process of drying this barley malt, for instance, let me explain that in Scotland, they dry it with peat-fueled fires. They use peat to fuel the fires that dries the barley malt. And those fires infuse the barley malt with the smoke and the flavor of the peat. So all that having been said, so there's actually no peat in the whiskey. It's just the peat-fueled fires flavor the barley malt. So that having been said, I hope that makes it easier to understand that Peter Bignall at the Belgrove distillery does not use sheep dung to smoke his whiskey. He uses sheep dung as the fuel for the fires that dry his barley malt. Now, he is running his operation so green. He grows his own rye, and his hot water is used. The water he uses is water that he has sourced from the roofs of his various sheds and buildings on his property, on his distillery property. The only significant material he brings to his farm is waste cooking oil, because he uses biofuel. He uses biofuel from a nearby restaurant or pub or some sort of restaurant-y thing nearby to fuel everything. And then the spent mash, the spent grains, he feeds to the sheep on his farm. And of course, once that distillery grain has gone through the sheep, it creates sheep dung, which he then used in this particular style of whiskey to dry the barley malt. So the barley malt has been smoked with the fire that was fueled by sheep. Now, isn't that fun? Isn't that fun? Now, when I talk about creative distillers, when I talk about craft distilling, this just epitomizes it, doesn't it? And he's making some amazing products. I hope you will check out his website. It is belgrovedistillery.com. He's out there in Tasmania. And for those of you who are listening to me or watching this from America, I'm sorry, this is nearly impossible to get. Well, there have been some laws that changed at the first of the year, but this is really, really hard. Any of the products from Australia and Tasmania are very difficult to get in the United States at this point. Importing is very tough. So I'm very, very grateful that I was sent this lovely, lovely sample. But if you are somewhere in this fine world of ours where you are able to get hold of this is called, please forgive me, it's called Holy Shit. WHOLLY, and then the other word for sheep dung. That is the name of this particular iteration of Mr. Bignall's whiskey. And I was so excited. I actually got an email from him after I talked about his whiskey, and he said, I want to get you a sample of this. And I said, oh, that's so wonderful. Mr. Bignall, thank you so very much. So very, very much. So here we go. I'm going to go right into, I've talked about it enough. I want to go ahead to tasting it. The color on this, it's actually quite light. It's very, very light. It's a straw, it's almost kind of a watered down apple juice color. But let's go ahead and pour some. Oh, as I was saying, if you live in a part of this fine world of ours where you can actually obtain some of this product, it runs about $300+ per bottle, so it's pricey. Peter Bignall there at Belgrove, he is making some amazing products and charging accordingly, and that is a completely fair price for a very good product. So here we go. I'm going to nose this lovely creature. Oh my goodness! That's amazing. It's earthy and it's very grassy, which you might imagine after having had the barley malt smoked with sheep dung. It's grassy and oh wow, that is there's this hay and there's some citrus going on. There's a little bit of oak. I'm gonna add, with my fancy yellow straw, I'm gonna add just about a half a teaspoon of water to this. I'm going to break it with just that little bit of water. Remember, what we're doing is breaking through the surface tension of those glycols so that we can release the aromas. Let's see. Oh, that is just amazing. There's ever so slight a hint of vanilla, the grassiness, definite earthiness. Now, I've heard it described as a tequila, so something akin to a tequila mixed with a young malt. So I'm interested to see what I think about this flavor. I'm not catching any hints of tequila. I'm getting just loads of earthiness. It's all very, very pleasant. I don't know how else to describe that to you. Imagine Fresh turned earth. Fresh turned earth. That's lovely. Okay, here we go. I've puttered around. Here we go. Cheers. Talk to yourselves for 4 or 5 seconds. Ooh. Wow, is that spicy? Ah, there we go. Now I know what they're talking about. It does. It is very reminiscent of a very, very good tequila. Strangely, I have to say, I've never tasted a whiskey that reminded me of tequila. But oh, it's smoky. Oh, wow! Once that tequila nature, that tequila nature passes, there's this rush of smokiness. That is beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. That is amazing. I'm waiting to see how long. It's a very long finish. Just delightful smokiness, pure, clean smokiness, and there's a creaminess to it. And as the smokiness fades a little bit, now it's turning a little ashy. It went from smoky to just a little bit ashy, but it's not unpleasant. Super smooth, went down just like butter, you know, if if that's what butter goes down like. But it's got a really, really creamy, it's turning very, very creamy, and maybe a little sweetness going on. It is. There's a sweetness that's developing. Now, I tell you, I've only encountered 1 or 2 other whiskeys that has this kind of cascade of flavors. So, if I was writing out a review, I would be giving this an A, straight up. This is among the absolute most interesting whiskeys I've ever had in my life. This is incredible. Peter Bignall, Mr. Bignall, if you are watching this, I want to thank you so much. I'll also be doing a podcast featuring this. And a shout out to you, any of you out there that are interested in some of the most creative, and if this is any indication, some of the very best whiskeys coming out of our neighbors to the south there in Australia and Tasmania, please visit belgrovedistillery.com. I mean, he is running his operation so green. The brewing and distilling waters harvested from his roofs. He built his own copper still, and it's direct fired with biofuel, which is used cooking oil from a roadhouse next to his farm. See, I wanted this finish to completely pass. I was babbling while I was waiting, but it hasn't completely passed all this time, and there's still this lovely woodsy smokiness, but it's turned into something very, very, a very creamy mouthfeel to it as well. Now I'm going to taste it again to see if I notice anything different. There's a sweetness, but I can't quite identify it because I'm talking so much. So hold on just a moment. There's definitely a sweetness, but the smokiness is so not overpowering, but it's so dominant that the sweetness, I suppose it could be something like a cookie. Like a lovely shortbread cookie. Wow, fabulous. I'm going to taste this again. Oh, absolutely fabulous. If you can, if you're able to find some of this, I give this my absolute highest recommendation. There you go. That is an open box. First time looking and tasting review video here for you. Now this again is the holy shit iteration of Peter Bignall's whiskey from the Belgrove distillery. It is the malt. And actually, I see here that he is producing a 100% rye whiskey, which means that the malt is not actually barley malt. He's actually malted his rye. And let me tell you real quick that for anybody to produce a 100% rye whiskey, you got to give them another, they get another brass button, because working with a 100% rye mash is very, very tricky. It becomes very sticky, and it's difficult to work with. So there you go. He gets more points for that. But nonetheless, there it is. I will put a link to his distillery in the description below, and I look forward. I've got more boxes I've got to get to. I've got more coming. So thank you for joining me. See, you can't really. Let me show you this. Whoops. I do that all the time. You can't really read that. It does say rye whiskey. Yeah. There we go.